networking, referrals, strategies for success, and real-life stories from professionals who are building a business based on relationship marketing. Welcome to the Caerusnet podcast. Here, you'll learn how to stay connected in the local business community and become that person others get to know, like, and trust, and refer to. And now, your host, Caerusnet founder, Steven Zyskowski.
Thanks for joining us today on the Caerusnet podcast. Brian M Truskowski is with me today. Brian is the owner of Illuminate. He is a body worker. He's at Kimberly Lauren's Body and Health Studio in Brighton. And he's also a spiritual life coach. Brian is in his third, I think, tour with Caerusnet. He's been with me on previous teams. He's currently a member of my really fun Brighton Tuesday 8 o'clock group and moved back to the area recently. So Brian, thanks for spending some time with us today on the Caerusnet podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I'm like a long-time listener, long-time caller of this wonderful experience. But I think 2015, 2014, I think is where I met you. And we're doing the plug for the Who.
Yeah.
It's so weird how I have this saying, people come into your life for a reason, a season, a year, or a lifetime. And with that, this person, Nate Roberts, I saw him at the Ann Arbor Farmers Market, who had his marketing campaign at the time was Shift Happens, and it was a picture of a spine. I'm like, okay, this is too good. Like, I'm somewhat new into body work. I started my practice in 2011 and just I'm like, I got to network with this guy. I got to get a hold of him. Well, he started talking with me and goes, hey, are you into networking? And long story short, he's like, yeah, there's a meeting on this day and time. Can you make it? And I happened to make it, and the rest is history. And then I met this Steve I don't know how you pronounce this guy's last name, but I figured I had to talk to him because their names were similar enough, so.
Well, I love that, and thank you so much for going down memory lane with me. I remember seeing Dr. Nate with the Shift Happen shirts on at the Caerusnet meetings back in Ann Arbor, and it's fun to go down memory lane like that. And also just goes to show how important it is for somebody just to ask another business person, hey, how are you growing your business? You ever thought of this? Because sometimes we turn somebody on to something that helps them in life. So let's talk about you, Brian. You are a body worker and spiritual life coach. So maybe you could take us down the journey of who you are, what you're doing today, and like who are ideal referrals for you.
Absolutely. It's been a long, winding road, as I've told many people on my journey. But the current story that you may be interested in is, I'll step one step back, was in 2021, I bought a shuttle bus and I converted it to my full-time home, which I lived in for about 1 full year. Took 6 months to build that out. And on the tail of that, I was invited to Tennessee to help my friend build some tiny homes in Tennessee. And so I was there over the winter. That project took 8 months. And that was tons of fun. And so when I returned to Michigan in June, I didn't waste any time. And actually, my friend Joy Detling, I was staying in my bus on her parents' property, and she got me into like considering Caerusnet again. But the funny story that I want to talk about, and other Caerusnet people, how this applies, and why Caerusnet is such a great referral, right? It's like this. I was back like 3 days, and Joy's like, well, do you want to come check out my group as a guest? I'm like, she's like, but you don't even know what the heck you want to do. You want to do massage, you want to do coaching, you want to do construction. You don't even know what the heck you want to do, Brian. I'm like, I don't. I was refiguring it out. So she invited me. I just checked out the roster. And at that point, Ed Bukowski, another one of our fun Zis names, was on there. And so I'm like, I want to go have coffee with that guy. And at the end of the coffee, he offered me a job. And it was great. And it was no interview. He just loved me. And so I worked for a week and discovered that's not what I want to do. And so I decided I wanted to do massage again. And I kid you not, Heather Heffley, I met her 1.5 years ago at the member breakfast. I only saw her then, hadn't seen her, talk with her since. And Heather happens to go to Joy's conscious dance thing that she's talked about, right? And Heather happened to show up 2 days after I made my declarative to leave the construction company, only after a week. Heather shows up, and we had lunch on a Sunday at like 2 o'clock. And she's like, I'm looking for a place to practice. And she's like, oh, you should go check out Kimberly Lauren's. She's not a Caerusnet member, but she's super packed. Anyway, gave her my number, warmed the referral. 6 o'clock on Sunday, like 4 hours later, I'm having a conversation with Kimberly. That next day, I'm doing a podcast with Jason, leave the construction company, and then at like 4 o'clock, I talk to Kimberly and I sign up to be a practitioner in this lovely room here, right? So it's like, that's how my funny life works.
Yeah,
and
serendipity.
if that's not the power of referral and community and connection, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
I don't know what is.
absolutely. No, it's amazing when you have people in life that take an interest in you and find ways to include you in things that they're doing. So I appreciate all of that. That was fun to go through. Let's talk about you. You're a body worker. So I think most people, when they hear of people that help people get rid of pain, they hear it under the term of something called massage. But we're using body worker with you. And personally, myself, I've worked with you before in the past when I was having shoulder issues. I had some shoulder issues and they were flaring up, and you really helped me recover through that. And I've been actually fantastic since. So I know what a wonderful understanding you have of the body and how to make things work. So let's talk about, like, what are your specialties and why are we calling you a body worker versus a massage therapist?
Well, my one tagline that actually started at the member breakfast this year was, I'm a body worker. I work on humans, not cars, because we're in Detroit and people get confused over this. So why I say body work is because for the first number of years of my bodywork practice, my massage practice, whatever you want to call it, I would go to festivals. I'd do chair massage. And then they would come into my office and they get a session from me. And what they said was, and I'm quoting you because this happened countless times out of people's mouths, I came to you for massage. I'm not sure what I got, but I like it and I want to come back because it was helpful, right? Because most people, when they think of massage, it's, you're going to get naked or almost naked under some sheets. I'm going to, slather you with oil, and you're going to have some whatever experience from there, either relaxation or maybe slightly discomforting or elsewise. Also, a lot of times in that realm, it's highly encouraged that the patient or the client stay quiet and doesn't speak and has their own personal experience. And likewise, a massage therapist does the same thing. On my table, a lot of talking happens. Either I've found, because I've become such good friends with my clients, or on the flip side, one aspect that I do with my bodywork practice is I give my clients avenue to speak, not from like a therapist perspective, but sometimes just being heard is helpful and healing in itself, right? I'm not here to therapize you, but also as a spiritual life coach, I have some things I can kind of insert into that conversation. And what I want to say is a lot of times why I do body work is I don't use lotion or oil. A lot of times my clients stay fully clothed. I don't ask them to disrobe. If they want to, that's their prerogative, and they do. Confidentiality is 100% important to me. People don't know who I work on out of my mouth, your mouth. You can share my client's testimony all the time like you just did. So thank you, Steve. Also, it's a combination of sports massage, myofascial therapy, neuromuscular therapy for people who know what that is, craniosacral therapy, energy work. It's a whole smattering of things. I'm really truly listening to one person's body and doing what they're needing. Sometimes I make stuff up, right? And a lot of times people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just making this up, because I literally am, but the body is asking me to do this weird move or maneuver, and a lot of times that's exactly what they're needing without any words being exchanged. So an intuitive sense, if you would, right? Because within that, my favorite thing to work on is upper body, shoulders. I've been called a shoulder expert over the years. In fact, at the Caerusnet breakfast, one person came up to me and she was just like, I have a shoulder problem that just won't go away no matter what I do. And so here's a hint for people. If you have a shoulder issue that's not going away, the first question I ask is, can I ask a challenging question? Do you think there's an emotional aspect to this? And 9 times out of 10, people pause. Sometimes they bite their lip and hold back some tears, because what it is the body holds emotions, and every aspect of the body from head to toe has different places where we hold emotions or traumas. And the conversations that I was talking about, sometimes it's getting people to just discuss what it is or where they're currently at with it, as I am either doing energy work or somehow doing either gentle or whatever level of manipulation to the soft tissue, the muscles, the energy fields, right? Does that make sense? I know this is really kind of woo in a sense, but what's funny was 3 or 4 years ago, people thought I was nuts, but now I say this like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so it's like clearly something's happening in this world where people are having a deeper level of understanding, right?
Well, I absolutely, and I think that you did a great job kind of encapsulating. You're not La Vida massage where people are going to walk in and it's 45 minutes and you flip and you flip and you say goodbye and leave a mint on the pillow. You're really trying to connect with the client, right? And you might, like you said, you don't necessarily have you're able to respond to what you're seeing, to what you're feeling in that relationship with that client. So I think that's incredibly intuitive, and that's probably got to be a huge reason why your clients feel that relationship is so personal and effective.
That's right. And as I tell people with it, I have a set of ground rules. And first thing I say is this session's about you. It's not about me. And I mean that. And actually I had a new client since I've returned to Brighton to work. I had one client go, you actually mean that? I'm like, yeah, I actually do, because she had something going on in her body, and she had conveyed to me previously that other practitioners have gotten upset that her body didn't respond the way that they wanted it to, not the way that her body was responding. And I'm like, really? That's crazy. And I've had a few other people over the years tell me that. So it's like, your body is going to react and move, respond the way that it wants to. And who am I, right, to tell you what your body needs to do? I can encourage it, but I can't force it to do anything. And likewise, I tell my clients this is a co-creative experience, meaning I need your input. If I'm working on the area that's tender, I need you to use your breath to kind of help move that energy. Like when we're working out or doing yoga, we're using our breath to move energy, right? To kind of help release pressure. So likewise, it's the same concept in my practice as well. If we're in those super tender areas, you know, I need that participation. Or at least also if I'm doing energy work or the craniosacral work, needing people's feedback is helping me sometimes to direct where I'm going as well.
Okay. So I know that in the Spotify links and the YouTube links we'll drop in your website, but what's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you for bodyworking?
Personally, just, I mean, through my website, all my contact is on there. My email's on there, my phone number's on there. And I will say I'm a bit of an old school guy. I don't do online booking. There's a twofold reason for that. There's multiple reasons why, but ultimately, a lot of times I'm getting text messages from my clients or phone calls from my clients. That's personally what I love to do, because I get to establish a rapport with them right away, find out what's going on, and am I even able to help them, right? I don't want people coming in my door, on my table, wasting their time and mine if I'm not the right person for them.
Yeah,
and so I like to qualify my clients before they come in, because sometimes they're looking for something that I'm not to offer, but if I can refer them, more than happy to refer them somewhere else. But I just want to make sure they know what they're getting into. So that's why primarily why I don't do online booking.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. So, but for everybody listening, if you don't mind making a short trip to Brighton, whether you're in Ann Arbor or any other surrounding community, Brian would love to see you. Does a fantastic job. I can give a testimonial personally there. Let's talk about one other aspect of your business that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet before we start talking about Caerusnet, and that's your spiritual life coaching. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I've got different types of life coaches in Caerusnet, but yours is the only one I'm calling spiritual. So let's talk about that.
We will. So what that means is this. Whether one wants to admit it or not, the world has been transforming. People are waking up. This is a word we're hearing, and I don't mean woke, I mean awake. Completely different context. We're not going into that. But what I'm getting at is people are having a different perspective, a different reality. And I've met a number of specifically women, 3 or 4 in the last few months, that their life is starting to not make sense. Their life is falling apart. Relationships are ending. Careers are ending. Things are literally falling apart because they're seeing the world completely differently, and people in their life are still seeing it the same old way. And there's this dissonant energy that's happening. And most people start to freak out, but in reality, you know, there's many words for it. Awakening is one word for it. Spiritual awakening is another word for it. But a lot of times when people are in this place, there's confusion, there's frustration, there's sadness, there's fear, there's all these things. And so part of what I've been on this journey for quite a while, and I have a lot of friends that have been on this journey for a while. So really what I'm offering is it's a non-biased, friendly perspective that can just hear you. And oftentimes I tell my clients, nothing literally you can tell me I would think is crazy, because I either heard it before, seen it before, or experienced it. And I'm really not exaggerating on that level.
Well,
so,
and I could back that up, because you've had conversations with me that are pretty wild.
Steve's about as far as they get. Not really. You're pretty vanilla, Steve. I hate to tell you that, but anyway, maybe mixed, maybe a mixed vanilla chocolate. But regardless, people are in this world, and they just oftentimes, what I've found is just need a safe person to talk to. That's not their spouse, not their friend, not their colleague, or elsewise. Because as actually I heard this, I was getting a coaching session from Kathy King last night, and she was like, because if I share whatever information confidential with friend, family, partner, spouse, I can't guarantee that's confidential. I can't guarantee that's not going to go anywhere, right? And so with me, what you get is 100% confidential experience. And I also, with this, can work remotely. So I can work with people anywhere in the world via Zoom or phone call or elsewise through that. Or if they want to do in person, they do in person. One other fun thing that I actually offer inside of that is what I call the kinesthetic or a face-to-face approach. Meaning, when I lived in Denver for a bit, I worked with clients out on nature trails. We would go out into the woods on hikes. And what I found is that sometimes I'm one of these people who walks in circles or paces when I'm on the telephone. I'm sure there's a lot of people who do that. I need to move this energy, right? And so what I've found is by getting people in motion, they can process their emotions a lot faster with me there in real time. And a case in point, I'll give you one example. There was one client I was working with a number of years ago who was, and this is more business oriented, but regardless, he was weighing two different options. And one of the options felt really easy, and the other option felt really tenuous and heavy and burdensome. I said, okay. I said, I want you to pick up two rocks. Pick up a light rock and a heavy rock. He goes like, oh, okay. I said, that light rock, that's the easy choice. That's the one that you know that you're willing to do the work to get done. And that heavy rock, that heavy one that's got just a lot of weight to it, that's the one that you don't want to do, that you can do, but you really don't. And it's frustrating you. Now close your eyes and feel that. And all of a sudden, he opened his eyes and looked at me and goes, wow. I never even thought of it that way before, right? Because I'm giving someone a kinesthetic feel, sensation of what's going on in their world. And sometimes you pull them out of their head, get them into their bodies, and give them a kinesthetic, tangible experience. And all of a sudden, words aren't needed at that point. The answer's there.
So you've got me curious now that you've given us a cliffhanger example. What did the person choose?
You have to stay tuned to next season to find out the answer to that.
I was going to say, what I was thinking is maybe when they were holding the two rocks, actually holding it, maybe they realized that heavier rock wasn't all that much heavier, but was worth carrying. Who knows? I mean, I guess it could go many different ways.
It could go either way. He chose the lighter option.
He chose the lighter option. Okay, well, a lot of times we resist things that seem like they can, be difficult or challenging, and that's normal.
Let's just put it this way: it came down to delegation, Steve.
Okay.
The lighter rock was him delegating to other people.
Oh, okay.
Because that was easier for him to delegate than to do all the stuff himself. So.
Yeah. Well, I think successful people know the things to delegate. So they can be working in their unique value all the time. Okay, so let's jump into one thing that I like to ask every Caerusnet guest on the podcast, and that's that you've got some wisdom to share now. You're not a rookie. You haven't started out in Caerusnet a week ago, a month ago. As a matter of fact, everybody that's on our podcast has been in the network for at least a year, so that way you've got something practical, a viewpoint you can actually share from. Otherwise, it's more like speculating. So now that you've been in the network for a number of years, you're going to notice that there are new people that are going to be joining your Caerusnet team. And if that new member came to you and said, hey, Brian, I'm just getting started now, what's the best piece of advice you would have for me to have some success in my Caerusnet experience? What would that best piece of advice be that you could give me?
I would say the best piece of advice is talk to as many people as you can, have as many trust builders as you can, and make as many connections as you can, regardless if it's in your own group or other groups. And what I found is since Caerusnet went virtual, it's almost like it blurred all together, where people are like, it's much more of much more of a blurry, broad family. Whereas before, it's like, I belong to this group and we're cooler than you, and which still happens. Some people are very much into that ego identity. But what I would say is, it's get to know the people in your own group, but don't be afraid to go outside that circle and go into other groups, because I've found that that's often where magic happens, right? Because we get into this sort of mindset of, I can't go to another group because, there's another chiropractor over there and there's one in my group, and I don't want to upset Dr. Aaron, I don't want to upset whatever it is. It's like I will raise my hand and I'll tell you what, under the concept of referral and all these things, back in 2010 and 11, when I was going to massage school, I had my best friend and her husband were both in the field. And they said, look, no one is competition. Everyone is colleague. Everyone is partnership, because what you offer is different than someone else offers. So that's scarcity mindset. If you're operating in that perspective where everyone is competition, even another massage therapist in the same office that I'm in, no, that's scarcity mindset. Abundance mindset is we all have something unique to offer each other.
Yeah, I love that. And certainly some fields are a little bit more collaborative. Can be more collaborative with each other. And, I really appreciate that sharing. And I think the other thing that I'd just add to that too is sometimes people, when they join a team, you gave great advice there. The advice being, have a lot of trust builders and do them with everybody on your team. Because sometimes people think that, hey, I should do my trust builders with these 5 people first, because they're all in maybe my wheelhouse or might see more clients that could be good referrals for me. But the reality is I learned a long time ago to treat everyone like they could be your next best referral source ever. And then do something for those people. Like, don't expect people to trip over themselves to refer you. But if you can refer them first, then they also recognize that you're for real. And giving everybody an opportunity to have a relationship with you is huge. That's why you've got so many of them. So thank you, Brian Truskowski, for being on the Caerusnet podcast today and sharing your collective wisdom. Looking forward to seeing where this goes, because with you, it is always an adventure, my friend.
Never ending. As my mom has told me, you're different, Brian. There's never a dull moment in your life. So there we go. Thank you, Mom.
Well, we're all blessed. We're all blessed to be a part of that. Thanks, Brian Truskowski from Illuminate, Bodyworking, and Spiritual Life Coach. Thank you so much.